I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner's Office is requesting the Board approve and execute the minutes for the meeting of December 15th, 2015.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye.
Commissioner Geauga?
Welcome, Anita.
Good morning. Good for you. All set for the holiday?
Yeah.
Me too. I'm done.
Good for you. Bragging?
Yes, I
Are you going to sleep for the next 2 days or 3 days?
am. Just cooking now, no, nothing more than that.
Oh, your house has just got to be a joy from a food standpoint.
Oh, yeah,
Rome.
we do a lot of food. Christmas Eve and Christmas Day at open house,
The
so.
cinnamon rolls over at your place is fantastic.
We'll do now the nut rolls and the poppy seed rolls. And, oh, you know.
I'll put my order in.
All right.
That's number 2.
This is number 2?
That's number 2. This is number 3.
Fantastic. Thank you, Anita.
I knew how much you were looking forward to this too.
So you got a couple days of break there, you know, so now you're gonna have Raiders fans this morning early.
Phone books weren't bad.
I know, that's sad.
All right, give us your
All
best.
right.
No pressure.
I-
No pressure there. I already gave her a
Okay.
heads up in the back, so.
All right, the first one is Patty Group, right? Yeah, okay. Patty Group's a very successful landscaping business that's right on Russell on 306 there. He's been there, I don't know, 20 so or more years. Steve Patty, the owner. And he's kept expanding the business. It's kept growing. And now he's ready to leave the business. And his 2 sons, Jonas and Brian, had gone off and started their own business a couple of years ago, and he made the offer for them to buy him out. We're gonna look at, we at Liberty Bank are looking at strictly the real estate purchase as the portion of the buyout. The other portion they'll leverage between themselves, the business assets, goodwill, receivables, machinery and equipment, that'll all be separate. We're looking at strictly the buyout of the land and buildings right there on 306, which has been appraised out, and that's what we're looking at, combining up with Liberty Bank, and Liberty will be like 510, and we're 193, and the boys will put in the difference, so.
Okay. I do have, well, you and I have been talking about this right along.
Yes.
And for everybody's purposes here, I'm very uncomfortable with the government being a bank. And as I looked at that, if it wasn't for Anita, we would have a whole different conversation. But Anita is so good at what she does that it gives me a better comfort level. But as I've looked at these, we're in a second position. And generally speaking, the people in the second position on these kinds of loans is $193,000 of taxpayers' dollars we're putting at risk. People at second position, should there be a failure, are the last to get anything at all, if anything at all.
Not dead last,
And
but.
generally,
But behind the.
generally those in the
behind,
second position
yeah.
don't get anything, because the bank will go and get the assets first, and there won't be anything left to get at the end of it. And so the only saving grace in a loan like this for us is that Anita and the board, the financial board that
The
helps
advisory
oversee
committee,
these,
right.
is just good at what they do to determine whether or not this is actually a good investment. Because if it wasn't a good investment, we would, you know, it would be like Solyndra, we're just dumping money into something that's gonna
Thanks.
fail.
Yeah.
And so, thank goodness, Anita's track record has been very good at choosing. It's either that or she's been very lucky. And so,
Probably.
I'm not sure which it is, but I'm always very uncomfortable about these for those reasons, because in
Yes.
second position, generally speaking, the government's, and by the way, we charge a lesser interest rate.
Right.
Normally, in second position, if you're a bank in the second position, or some other lending organization in the second position, you get a higher interest rate, not a lesser interest rate. we're charging a lesser interest rate. All that said, we do this to encourage and/or to help our businesses in Geauga County to succeed.
It's to improve their cash
And
flow, to encourage them to grow faster and hire more people, and to provide jobs for people within the county, less travel. So there's a lot of benefits, but as Blake knows, he sits on the committee, it's a very knowledgeable group, and they do look at the strength of the business, and it's more than just what collateral position is, it's the strength of their business plan and their character. And we have been very lucky, but we have very conservative businesses in this county who work within, they're not pie in the sky, they're very, almost too conservative sometimes, so we are blessed.
My position on these loans is, well, to me, $193,000 and $250,000 is a lot of money to me. We get periodically, as we did last week, reports from the treasurer's office where we have $70 million on deposit and so on as a county. And I've asked Chris, although I got busy and didn't get back to him in time to get the yield, but the yields that are on those loans now, I don't think that, if there's one over 1.5%, I'd be surprised. And it's not the roaring 90s or the early
Oh, I know, the
2000s.
good old days.
About 2008, that thing fell in the tank.
Yeah.
And I've asked him for a chart, a schedule, let's say the last 10 years. But clearly, an investment like this for a 10-year period of time at 3.5% beats anything else the county's got going right now. Where back in the day, this would seem like a real bargain, and it is a bargain for the people that are borrowing. But it's people in the county who, whether they can create more jobs or not, they work here, they pay taxes here, and the money stays here. Where when we give, gosh knows how much to some financial institution, I don't know where that money's going. So I don't have a real problem with this, because while it may not be as rosy as some would like it, it's a lot better than a lot of the things that we're forced to do. Because, again, in Chris's defense, he's got very, very tight restrictions on what he can put money in with regard to the
Oh, yeah,
the
Right.
security.
And that's all money from the school, seven
Incredibly.
school districts.
Oh,
the
yeah, right,
townships, the
yeah, it's not the
villages.
county money, I don't want
Yeah.
to, it's,
It's like-
it's county money in that it's money that's
Goes
in
through the
Geauga,
treasury.
in Geauga County and
Yeah.
goes through the treasury, it's not our funds, so I don't want someone to misrepresent
no.
that 70 million number like we have that on, and we're hoarding it, so.
Well, the other good thing about the fund is, even though it is, we always look at it as taxpayers' money. We never not look at it as taxpayers' money, but it started with about 3 million. And with that 3 million, we've made 18 million in loans. So a lot of it is the business's money coming back and forth too. So on the strength of their ability to pay, we're able to loan to other businesses. But it's always still taxpayers' money. But it has served its purpose of why it was created like 100-fold. So it works. Maybe it should have never started, but once it started, we couldn't ask for a better outcome. So blessed with good companies, really, the key, good companies.
Well, thank you.
That's all I have.
Oh,
Go ahead.
The Office of Community and Economic Development is requesting the board approve and execute the legal binding documents for the revolving loan fund loan to Petty Holdings Limited for the purchase of land and buildings located at 15533 Chillicothe Road, Russell Township, for the amount of $193,000 for 10 years at 3.5% interest, including a mortgage for 15495 Chillicothe Road, a mortgage for 15511 Chillicothe Road, a mortgage for 15513 Chillicothe Road, participation agreement, promissory note, guarantee of Patty Holdings Limited, guarantee of Patty Group Management Incorporated, guarantee of Patty Group Incorporated, guarantee of Landscapers 5-Star LLC, personal guarantee of Brian Petty, and personal guarantee of Jonas Geauga.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler? Commissioner Claypool?
That's, of course.
I just have to wait for the pause.
There's a principle there.
I know, I
I'm
totally
struggling with
understand. My dad would say the same thing.
If you look over at all those stickers on the top, when I first looked over, it looked like a carrot.
No, give it a
Well,
try.
we may be forced,
It looked like a carrot. I mean, when did we get carrot stickers?
we may be forced to take a second, but we attach everything we can get. Or Ralph, he knows, we attach everything. Maybe,
It's like worse than buying a house.
yeah,
Paperwork-wise.
probably. And don't think for a minute, companies aren't nervous when they sign government contract. It's very painful for them.
That would be small companies.
Yeah.
I imagine that mega
Okay,
companies
the
don't even give it a
classic,
second thought. They just
GE,
borrow the
Ford,
money.
and Solyndra, they don't care because they know there's an out. When you live in this county, you know there's no out. You're gonna pay your debts here.
We got Joni, so.
Yeah, I know, she's the enforcer.
She didn't look mean, but
She's tenacious. We've sat on doorsteps waiting for people to come home. I mean, we'll do everything to collect.
Go out on Halloween.
Yeah.
Trick or treat, put your check in there.
We've been to houses. But that's so rare. It's so rare. We really are a great county to make a loan. Just,
How many times do we have to sign our name on
I'm like, I'm missing one. I lost.
you want to explain the second one? while I'm
okay,
doing this?
yes, more than happy to. The second one is the irony, another landscaping company. We rarely do a landscaping company, we end up with two in one year at the same time. This is a company searching for a corporate headquarters. They're, purchasing this existing company on Kinsman Road will bring them that corporate headquarters. So with that as their home base, they will expand and grow. They have a fast track plan to keep their business, which has been continually growing in revenue every year. And this is what they needed to expand further, store their equipment cleanly and out of sight on the property, and eventually add more building to expand the operation and the equipment that they have to buy to keep up. So another higher end landscaper, more of a design, heavy design. A lot of their businesses towards the west end and into Cuyahoga County, you know, the big backyards, which continues to be a demand as more people stay within their boundaries, it appears. So they're doing very well and need to look to the future, so. Well-run owner who's really on top of his game. It's very encouraging, young and go-getter, so.
You have comment on that, Skip, on the
I have
second?
no comment. Same comment
Ditto.
applies. The only other concern that I have is that it's a landscaping company, and sometimes landscaping companies aren't the best bet, I'm gonna say. So, I mean, I know that we need landscaping
Not in our
companies and all that kind of
experience so
stuff.
far, but it seems there's a never-ending demand for somebody else to mow your lawn.
I mean, I'm gonna trust in the process here a little bit, because I'm watching, you know, and you and I have had
Oh,
many
I
hours
know.
of conversation about this, so it's not like I'm going into
Oh,
this
no.
lightly, so. Because this is an area that I really have a principled issue with. I know that I talk to venture capital guys who, when government gets involved, the venture capital guys don't have an opportunity. And so there's lots of banking and other companies, organizations,
Yeah.
that are impacted by our decision.
Not really so much in the loans that we make out here. You pretty much see venture capital is looking at high tech or something that they can turn around and have an IPO on eventually, and you know, millions. There's some who do the smaller scale, but usually they're looking at sell the company quick, get an IPO.
If we were doing
and-
venture capital loans, I think I'd be in his position of complaining as to long-term residents of the county who live here, and this is, you know, my experience, I know some of these people.
Oh, yeah.
By reputation, we're not friends, close friends, I didn't go to dinner, but I know the families and so on. And they're pretty stout families. I mean, they've proven themselves, and they're invested in the community. I don't think they want to walk where a venture capital guy who's borrowing money, lives in Atlanta, he don't care about us.
They're a tricky bunch. Maybe an angel investor would be something more that you would see out here, somebody with just some cash that's not so driven by the percent.
Well, Blake's comment gives me, is what comforts me, and that is we are helping Geauga County folks.
Yeah.
I mean, the comment earlier about the 3%, that doesn't come back to our general fund, that comes back into the
Oh,
loan
yeah,
fund.
it doesn't.
And we can never take this out of the loan fund.
You can, yeah.
It is a loan
It
fund.
is strictly
that
controlled by
is-
the state.
That is
Yeah.
specific to providing opportunities for
Yeah.
businesses. in our
It's not
county.
like you could ever
So-
cash it out and put it in the fund, the state would just
Oh,
take it back.
yeah, I didn't mean to imply that it was our general fund. This
Yeah.
goes into
I
our
know.
general fund. It goes into your
The
general fund, loan
yeah.
fund to perpetuate the program. And hopefully, at a point in time, I don't know how much we're putting back in. We're approving things here. How much of the money that you're lending out, some of it we're bringing out, maybe all of it in this case, but,
It's all brought
This-
back, it's all revolving. That's
Right.
why, you
Yeah,
know.
Right,
it just keeps
that's-
coming and going. And that's the requirement of the state, is that we can't sit on it either.
Right.
If we sit on it, we give it back.
That's the one thing that
But-
gives me a little bit of comfort, and
Yeah.
is that we're helping local Geauga County folks to succeed, and that it is a fund set up for that. And if you look across the state,
Oh, no,
other
it
state
doesn't work
funds
anywhere else.
are throwing money away,
Right.
and yet, and we're not. And so, you know, all that gives me a little bit of comfort.
I
Yeah.
don't,
Do you wanna
I
go
sit
ahead?
on that board and I don't profess to have any crystal ball or some unusual investment knowledge, but I do like to ask a lot of questions, and I know the
Very
people,
appreciated.
I know the people that are on that board who are professionals.
Yeah.
And I generally will ask them numerous questions in those meetings to get, and ask two of them the same question to try to see
Right.
if there's
a good back and forth.
yeah, if there's a
Yeah.
difference of opinion and so on.
And the personal anecdotes, everybody knows something, so it's helpful.
Yeah, I'm not signing the check, but in a way I am. I'm reasonably comfortable with these loans that you guys make.
I think it's good, though, to have this banter, because people who are maybe paying attention should know that these things are not done lightly, that we do give these a lot of thought. This is something that, you know.
We can testify.
Anita has put up hours worth of preparation.
Through the ringer.
Although she was trying to bribe me with cinnamon rolls. I'm not sure what that was about.
It sounded to me like you were mooching them, that's what it didn't sound like she was bribing you. It sounded like you were holding her hostage.
Go ahead and read it.
Yeah, go ahead.
The Office of Community and Economic Development is requesting the board approve and execute the legal binding documents for the revolving loan fund loans with Escape Designs LLC for the purchase of land and building located at 10121 Kinsman Road, Newbury Township, in the amount of $250,000 for 20 years at 3% interest, including mortgage participation agreement, promissory note, and guarantee of Escape Designs LLC.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
Commissioner Claypool? And I did the other one because you were already up there, so.
Why don't you stop back this afternoon, we'll have these signed.
The next one is a change order for a residence for the Thompson Township sewer tie-in. Got to change the scope of the work due to lines being run, in addition of $750 to the current contract.
The Office of Community and Economic Development is requesting the board approve and authorize the president of the board to execute change order number 1 for Auburn Bainbridge Excavating, increasing the agreement of $750 due to an increase in scope of work for the tie-in of property located at 6737 Madison Road, Townsend, to the Townsend Township Sewage Disposal System under grant BW 13101.
I'll make that.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
Commissioner Claypool?
Boy, hold you to your workers' comp. Thank you, and thank you for the wonderful Christmas gift. We really appreciate it. The holiday, that's great. Thanks a lot.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the weather.
Oh, well, that too.
Thank you for the weather.
Thank you. I'm gonna know next time.
A lot of power. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Happy New Year. I think Randy's up, right? We're all warmed up and ready to see it.
Okay, today's financials include a unit certification for the Engineers Road Improvement Fund, appropriation transfers for various funds for year-end payroll processing, supplemental appropriation for the general fund for debt and capital project funding transfers, payments to Xcape Designs LLC for a revolving loan in the amount of $250,000, and the Patty Group for a revolving loan in the amount of $193,000. A payment to Thrasher, Dinsmore, and Dolan for legal services related to Geauga Park District zoning matters for the probate court in the amount of $9,264.
Is this it?
Okay.
And there was some question on the items on the last items that you mentioned. So I think that there was some discussion about setting those aside temporarily. So,
Yeah, and there's a little more legal research I think has to be done.
okay, so.
You know, we've talked to the auditor, and it can be, ultimately, it can be paid, you know, whenever the folks are comfortable with, you know, all the questions being answered.
I need a motion for that.
I will move to approve the financials excluding those last three items, which I won't read the numbers, but they're the three listed under probate court. I move that.
Second. I heard a second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
Commissioner Claypool?
The court has a question about that, if I could just have a second.
Go ahead.
What is the process that you guys are using to investigate whatever your questions are? Because nobody's contacted the court for answers to any questions. And if there's anything that we can provide to help answer those questions, we'd be happy to. So what, aside from contacting our court,
5.14.
what are you guys doing to try to answer the questions that you
We'd like to see some documentation or the process for the courts
Hiring the attorney.
hiring the attorney that complies with the Ohio Revised Code of
5.14.
Section 305.14, where in order to hire, when there's a conflict, then this is a layman explaining this, but we learned the hard way. When there's a conflict with the prosecutor's office, they must go through the court and have an attorney appointed. You can't just.
Court and the commissioners.
By the court, and then approved by the commissioners for the attorney.
Let me jump in here, because the question was a general question, and that, as I understood, is that correct, Ms. Lori? And
Yeah, I
that
mean,
is, what is the
if there's
general
a question
process?
about,
And so
if
when-
there's a question about, you know, how did the court hire the attorney,
So
the court might be able to answer that question for
Hang
you
on, let me
if you
finish.
guys had called us.
The general question was, what is the process? The process is when we receive the financials, which is the night before, the day before, then we review them to see if there's any irregularities or any questions or whatever the case happens to be. At that point in time, if there is, then Heidi and/or Dave, or who's necessary, determines who to ask that question of. And so normally we go to the auditor, because the auditor has some involvement in this and oversight. If there's questions, then we send those down to the state auditor to see, because at the end of the day, we don't want to take an audit hit or do something improper, and oftentimes we have to have questions. Understand there's multiple eyes looking at these things, and sometimes the auditor may miss it, and we catch it. So at the end of the day, we're looking out for the best of the citizens to make sure that we've done things proper. In this case, there was an item that came up this morning that we haven't gotten a chance to get to the court and ask you guys about yet, and we will be, and asking you to see if there was a process followed to hire an attorney and so on and so forth. The process is, first of all, determine what it is we're dealing with, who the appropriate people are to go to ask the question of, and then call and or do whatever to ask the question. That's the process.
And have you asked the prosecutors? I think you had mentioned that there were some legal questions about this, so have
There
you talked to
there was a
them?
question, a legal question. We reached out to our prosecutor's office. He asked us to talk to our external attorney, which we did this morning. And
So is that going to be an additional expense to the county?
Possibly. I don't know whether he'll bill us for that question or not. Sometimes the person that we use as an ancillary attorney doesn't bill us for questions asked. If he does work for us, then he bills us. If we just call him and ask him a question, he oftentimes just does that. And so that's a convenience thing on his part. But we have to determine.
You know the answer.
What's that?
It's important you know the answer.
Yeah, we have to know the answer. And so, at the end of the day, that's part of the process. So, does that answer your question?
It does. And so what is it that we could provide for you to help answer your questions? Is there anything that the court could provide?
If there was a process, and I don't know whether you want to do this publicly or outside of.
Well, I don't have the answers. I'd have to go back and, this was before my time, so I'd have to investigate for you.
As I said, do you want me to answer this question publicly, or do you want to do it after session?
Wow, okay, I don't know.
Okay, then the request is, the probate court hired an attorney for a specific purpose, you know what that was. And there is a process that the court needs to follow in order to hire an attorney. Was that process followed? Where's the documentation for that?
And that process is based on that revised code that you mentioned earlier?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, the common practice of the time is a little different from what our current common practice is, because we discovered this year that the process, generally speaking, was not being followed properly. And so, going forward, that's going to be corrected. But the common practice is a 2014 bill. So back in 2014, the practice at that point in time was a little different. So was that practice followed?
There were other questions that we have that I'm not sure are deal breakers or anything like that. A question I have is, it's second to last meeting in 2015, and we're getting a bill from June or July of 2014. And I don't know, fell between the cracks or fell off the desk. I don't know why, but it's all of a sudden, it's like 15, 16, 17 months later, we're getting asked to pay a bill that I don't think any of us really knew about. And while that may not be intentional, sinister, maybe innocent as all get out, it is troubling to be asked to pay something that, one, we had nothing to do with, because as it's been so eloquently stated by others, that the county commissioners have nothing to do with the Geauga County Park District. It appears that in this case they do, because there's a bill outstanding. And
Well, just so you guys.
I guess the issue that I have, not speaking for the others, is why are we important when somebody wants money? But any opinion that we would have, and I'm not saying we do, I'm just saying we've been told any other opinion, we would be kindly told it's none of our business. So,
Well, as I explained a week ago or so, this was not a park district expense. Under ORC 1545, the probate court has the authority to hire attorneys to help counsel the probate court on how to handle certain situations that may arise with, for example, I'm not saying this is necessarily the case with this, but, if there's, if the court needs to know what is our authority to handle a situation with the park commissioners that the probate court has the authority to appoint, then it is the probate court that has the authority to hire the counsel to help advise them on how to handle a situation. Do we have the authority to do something or do we not? That's not a park district expense, that is a court expense. So that's the type of situation that this bill is for. It's not a park district expense.
It may be appropriate, and as you said, and from my perspective, I'm not interested in spending more money trying to figure this out than we've already got invested in this. And so this will be a lessons learned. Whether it's right or not right, we're gonna figure that out and do what I think is the proper thing to do. But we do wanna, you know, our intent or interest is doing the right thing. And so if somehow this office is impinged or harmed or is impacted, I'm trying to think in search of the right word, by some process, we wanna make sure we correct that, because we don't wanna do that in the future. And so we're just trying to discover right now what happened, is it proper, not proper, and going forward, you know, how do we fix this? Because if it's not proper, or if it is proper, let's just pay the thing and move on. If it's improper, then let's correct it, not that it's that big a deal. And we certainly don't wanna spend more than we've already got invested in this expense. But we're gonna discover more of that if you can help by getting us some documentation relative to the process followed. We'll know that the proper process was followed, and then we can make a decision what we're gonna do going forward. Is that acceptable?
Yeah, is there anything else, any other questions, or?
Could you entertain a question from the public?
Yeah, go ahead.
I can try to
And state
answer.
your names for the record, please.
I'm Bonnie Kavanaugh. I'm on the county school board.
You're on which board again?
On the county school board.
Oh, the county school board, okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Is there, I would kind of expand on your question. Like, is there a dollar limit for that type of expense?
Yeah, there is no dollar limit,
That
it
needs
is.
to be approved?
Mhm.
And is there some kind of chart of accounts that gives them a certain dollar authority to hire that attorney without your approval?
Generally speaking, and this is part of what was discovered this year, because common practice in 2014, when this was happened, was different. The practice that the Ohio Revised Code, if I understand this correctly, and don't get me if I don't state it completely accurate, I'm not an attorney, and I don't profess to be an attorney. While I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, it may not translate. The process for anybody to hire an attorney, since the taxpayers, you, pay for that attorney, we have some oversight involved with helping to determine whether that's proper or not. So anybody in our county that needs to hire an attorney, if there's a conflict of interest, right now the prosecuting attorney is the attorney for everybody, unless he represents both parties, in which case then we're given authority to go out and to get a separate attorney. When that separate attorney is necessary, then there is a joint request made to the common police court and to this office. If we have an issue, then we say no, and then we battle it out in court, or we agree and then it moves forward. If the, let's use the probate court since they're here as the example. If they go out and determine an attorney, we have some involvement in negotiating the rate for that attorney and determining whether or not there's a cap or whatever associated with that attorney. So we get to negotiate that. That's not that we have direct say over it. We get to be involved in the process, is what I'm trying to say. As I understand it, that's the proper process. The practice of the day was that whoever the office was would simply go to the common police court, make the request, the common police court make the determination. We were not involved. We couldn't negotiate the rate, we couldn't involve negotiating a cap, whatever the case happens to be. And so that is not the proper process, and we're gonna correct that, I believe. Does that answer your question?
Well, and additionally, were there any other bills that were previously approved that came after that time period, or is that the entire bill?
No, well, for this activity,
For this
at this point in time, I'm assuming this is it. We've not seen any others. It's the end of
I'm just wondering if
2015,
there's
so.
more accumulating and you only got
Yeah, I don't believe that,
part.
I don't believe that to be the case. Now, as a part of that, just to give you some comfort, we're aware of all attorneys that have been hired. And so we have the opportunity to ask a question, you know, what's outstanding? We know what attorneys we've engaged, we know what attorneys others have engaged, and that's the reason that the Ohio Revised Code says, involve us in the process. Because it's it's our role to oversee your taxpayer dollars and how they're spent. And we do the best that we can, as you can hear with the conversation with poor Anita this morning. We do take this seriously, and we consider that as best we can. So there is need to have us involved in the process, and so we are, and we're overseeing that, and so we know what attorneys are out there, and we have the opportunity to ask the question. Shame on us if we don't. And so you can come in and ask the question, why aren't you asking more about those attorney bills? You have a right to do that. So anyway, hopefully that gives you some comfort.
Well,
it answers your question.
And if I could add something, the situation is slightly more complicated than just what does the Ohio Revised Code say, because the Supreme Court has deemed quite a few of the Ohio Revised Codes as being unconstitutional to require the courts to follow because of the separation of powers. You have the legislative branch at the state level
I get that.
making laws. Not everybody might, so if I'm explaining it, but you have the legislative branch making laws, but the legislative branch doesn't necessarily oversee the judicial branch. And so within the budgeting process, for example, there are Ohio Revised Codes that have been deemed unconstitutional to require the courts to follow them. So and then the laws sit there unless the legislature actually takes that extra step to remove the laws from the books, which makes it very complicated because that code may be there, I haven't seen it, but I'm not questioning whether it's there or not. But the question is, has that been deemed unconstitutional to require the courts to follow or not? And I don't know that, but that's why the water gets so muddy here. It's not just
That's a
like
fair
us.
question, and we don't know you don't know that it applies, and we don't know that it doesn't apply. I want to correct something for maybe some perception that people have or try to. The three of us are charged with managing this budget. If we save a lot of money, we don't get a commission, we don't get a bonus.
Sorry.
I know, sorry, you didn't get that memo? All we're trying to do is make sure that we protect the taxpayers' dollars. And in this situation, wherever this money comes from, unless the judge or someone decides to write the check themselves, it's going to be taxpayer dollars, whether it comes from the general fund with us, or it comes from a park district, or whatever. It's all public money. And we just want to make sure that, what the question you just brought about whether there's a Supreme Court opinion or so on, we need documentation. If we got something that says, hey, you're on the hook, okay. If we don't, then they got to follow the process some other way. And like you said, you don't know. I don't know either. Somebody must know, so that's why they're waiting. And apparently there's not a tremendous urge for the money because the bill's from like the summer of 2014 and we're about ready to turn the calendar.
Well, the poor attorney might be feeling different.
Well, I understand, but
and the attorney may take it upon themselves to act, if they're feeling like we've waited long enough.
That's within their purview. I mean, I can't control that. I mean, that would be being threatened by someone, and I don't have any interest in being threatened by a law firm or anybody else. I gave that.
Well, it certainly wasn't meant to be a threat when I just said it's just.
No, I didn't mean, I
fact.
didn't mean you. I
Okay.
meant when I say that if it's been gone out there for 15, 16, 18 months, whatever it is, all of a sudden there's this urgency in the last week, the week before the end of the year, when, it's like, okay, I understand trying to clean up a problem and get it off your desk, start the new year fresh, but I also understand the point that we're trying to do our job and take it very seriously and have. I don't spend the taxpayers' money the way I spend my money. I'm very, very frugal and tight with the taxpayers' dollars. And I take it very seriously, and I think my fellow commissioners do. That's why we're asking. We got, I won't say bit. We got burned slightly recently by not having all the ducks in a row or knowing to ask the right questions. I think we're all gun shy. We don't want to do that again. Thank you for your questions.
Thank you.
Okay. Jessica?
Hey, good morning.
How are you all doing today? Okay. So the first thing that I have today is, I had placed an employee on administrative leave yesterday, paid administrative leave until further notice, so if you could approve that.
The Department on Aging is requesting the board approve the placement of Kevin Delaney, Assistant Site Coordinator, on paid administrative leave effective December 21st, 2015 until further notice.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye.
Commissioner Claypool?
The next is, unfortunately, I received a resignation from Joanna Brace. She is our Senior Transportation Coordinator. She's been there, I think, just about 18 years, but, I hate to take Mike's thunder, but, Mike took
He
her
left.
from me. Oh, he
Oh,
just stepped out.
he just walked
Yeah,
out.
shame
Oh.
on him. He had an open, driver supervisor position, which she applied for, and she was the best candidate, and it's wonderful for her. It's a management position, so. it's
So he
wonderful.
stole an employee from you?
My loss is gain, so she's wonderful, so she'll be great at transit.
The Department on Aging is requesting the board accept the resignation of Joanna Brace, Senior Transportation Coordinator, number 1019, to be effective January 30th, 2016.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler? Commissioner Claypool?
And lastly, I would like to post her job internally. We do have 3 full-time employees who work underneath her. They have taken turns filling in for her when she has not been there, and also we do have a transit department, I'm sure, with wonderful scheduling skills. So I'd like to post this internally for someone qualified to take a step at it.
The Department on Aging is requesting the board grant permission to advertise internally for the position of Senior Transportation Coordinator, number 1019, with applications being accepted December 23rd, 2015 through 4:30 p.m. on December 31st, 2015.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye.
Commissioner Claypool?
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
all
and
have a
Merry
happy
Christmas.
holidays.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Yes.
Happy Hanukkah.
We'll probably see her before the New Year.
Yeah, you'll probably see me right before.
Morning, Dale.
All right.
The rest of the 13 is separate.
Number 9 and number 10 are accounting requests. When I'm stable to, I have to come in half the time on my vacation to get purchase orders. Judy prepares them and then I authorize them and sign them and approve them. 9 times out of 10, I have to come in and do that. Same thing with payroll. So this is allowing Roger to be added to both the financial and payroll to part of my succession plan, basically.
What?
I'm just troubled we give you vacation.
Well, I was in here twice during my vacation.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
last week.
This is another one of those knows you can't retire things.
Yeah, I know. The Department of Emergency Services is requesting the board approve and authorize the president of the board to execute the updated accounting forms authorization form for Fund 6031. The Department of Emergency Services is requesting the board approve and authorize the president of the board to execute the updated payroll authorization form.
I'll make those motions.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye.
Commissioner Claypool?
Next one is, we posted the job of preparedness and training internally, and we received one application. That was from Roger. Roger's currently the other position. We want to make him now the Deputy Director of Preparedness and Training, which I think he's better equipped to do based on the revised job description. And then, you want me to go through 12 also, the rationale, or you want to do that separate? 11, I guess.
No, I think we've discussed this, I think, so I'm good with it, so.
12 is, I'm better at planning, Roger's better at preparedness and training, so basically you would be posting for someone to take over the duties that I do as planning, again, part of succession planning. You're giving 2 great people to choose from, hopefully, in the near future.
The Department of Emergency Services is requesting the board approve the reclassification of Roger Peterson to the position of Deputy Director of Preparedness and Training number 1711 to be effective December 28, 2015 at a rate of $21.24 per hour with a 180-day probationary period. The Department of Emergency Services is requesting the board grant permission to advertise for the position of Deputy Director of Planning number 1712. This position will remain posted until filled.
I'll make those motions.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye.
Commissioner Claypool?
Aye.
Item 13, these are some of the highlighted changes in the Geological Emergency Response Plan for 2016. One was to add Dave as a member of the executive group. He's always been on it, but it hasn't been listed in the plan. And changed my title. I was classified as your chief of staff. I don't feel comfortable with that. Dave's your chief of staff, in my eyes. The plan has been rewritten so that I only become your chief of staff if the Emergency Operations Center is activated. And of course, then you're sitting across from me, and I'm giving you direct advice instead of going to the county administrator. So I kind of changed that so that I was not on par with Dave, and I wouldn't pretend to be. So that was changed. Under item C2, we had the wrong address of the county airport for many years. I have no idea why, but it was wrong. Under E4, we've changed our monthly silent siren test to weekly. There were some issues with the sirens, and they want to make sure that they're working properly, so we do those on a weekly basis. G2, we used to do an emergency public information distribution every 3 years. Now we do that on an annual basis. That's all the emergency information goes in the phone books and the handout that we do. We clarified under H4 that our radiological survey equipment is inventoried quarterly. The biggest thing that happened last year was the Ledgewood School is no longer. Now they're part of Berkshire School District, so that involved a major rewrite of not only the plan, but also all the suggested operating guidelines for what Berkshire School District would do in the event that there's an evacuation required of Thompson Township north of 166, which include many children and residents of Thompson Township. So that's a major rewrite. Entry was just a typo. We like to say guidelines instead of procedures. Procedures kind of denote you will follow. Guideline is clear steps we think you should follow. O2 was removed. We had some obsolete software was never taken out. Appendix 1 again is the addition of Dave and, well, also Chris to executive group assistant. Same with 3. 5 is replacing Ledgemont with Berkshire. Same with 6. Same with 12. 15 is every 5 years, unless there's a major change in projected population, we have to do an evacuation time estimate study, which was done last year, which shows all the different populations within the 10-mile ring and the 7 sub-areas, and they give us estimates as to the amount of time it's going to take to evacuate winter, summer, daylight, nighttime. There's one more thing I thought. I believe that's it. Those are the major changes to the radiological plan.
I have a question.
Yep.
The H4, which is clarified that the radiological survey equipment is inventory quarterly. You're just, I mean, it's supposed to be done and you're clarifying it,
Well,
or it hasn't been done, or that's a
It
change?
used to be yearly. Now we want to do it quarterly because this stuff comes up missing unless you inventory.
That was the heart of my question is, do we have an
It's
issue?
more- Yeah, we've had some issue where people couldn't find the equipment, especially when the state came in to recalibrate and exchange it. But doing it quarterly, we don't have that problem anymore.
Okay. And then the other question isn't on here, but I was reminded by the Ledgemont School change and so on, and that is the fact that we have that tower out on that property.
And you have a 20-year lease on that, and it's a big footprint on the property, so you're protected on that, right, Dick? 20 years?
How many, 20 years?
I think
going
we're
forward, or
5 years into it.
We're
I
5
think
years
you-
into
I
it,
think
so
we're
we have
5 years.
15-year.
I think that's what the case is.
You take up the bigger you take up a half to 3/4 of the footprint of the property with that, because it's a guide wire.
Yeah, it's a guide wire type tower, right?
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
So there's no impending issue 15 years from now. There will be maybe 13 when people start thinking about.
It should be an issue.
Okay, I just, that was on my mind, so.
Dale, describe to me the role of chief of staff.
I give you information as to making the best call to do protective action recommendations and information that goes out to the media. And as you remember from our drills, I participate directly to you instead of going through Dave. So Chief of Staff when the Emergency Operations Center is open. That's the only time.
Yeah, but maybe I'm confused. Are you making Dave the chief of staff?
No,
Or
no.
you're
I
making
am, but-
yourself the chief of staff?
Oh, I always was. I'm clarifying it, that I'm no longer Chief of Staff all the time, only when the Emergency Operations Center is open.
Oh, I got you, okay. I thought maybe we were.
No, I've always been Chief of Staff,
Increasing
and that's
Dave's
just,
involvement.
it's not right, because that's Dave.
Okay, gotcha.
And he's the pro on emergency response, so.
But
I was gonna say, an emergency situation, I'm not sure I wanna take Dave's.
If I'm not sitting with you, I still call Dave and funnel everything through Dave. Dave will tell you I've called him 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the morning.
Yep.
And I always go through Dave, but when I'm with you one-on-one, it's different.
Yeah, it's not filtered through me, he's the
Gotcha.
expert.
All right, good. I was
Were you there,
a little nervous.
Skip, were you there I don't think you were there for the, electric, the new power
Last Perry
plant.
drill?
Yeah, the Perry drill. Was that last summer, right?
He was.
You
He
were
was
through
one
the,
of 12.
at
I've been
the,
through 2 of them, actually.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, very familiar. Been through the book.
I wasn't sure if you were there when,
He wasn't the last one, he was the one prior to that, he was there for the dry run and full-scale exercise when he was interim commissioner.
okay.
I was the one leaving when they said nuclear cloud over top of.
Something about seeing Florida or.
See you in Florida.
Yeah, that's right. That was the door hitting me in the butt on the way
I
out.
don't think he was there for the CARES and
yeah,
that was the
No,
last one.
that was-
Was
right.
the breach of
Right, once you go.
The Department of Emergency Services is requesting the board approve and execute and further authorize the Director of the Department of Emergency Services to execute the radiological emergency response plan for an emergency at the Perry Nuclear Power Plant revision 24 dated January 2016.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye.
Commissioner Clickwell? Yes. And Dale also needs to sign it.
We've got 14.
Oh,
No, Dale's done.
No, Dale's done.
I'm for shame. We do-
Dale just got a promotion. He's now a deputy engineer.
I'm sure Shane would
Hello,
love to
Shane,
let
how are
you
you?
do his
Have
job
it
for
once.
today.
He can have it.
And Shane gets to do fill-in today.
Morning, gentlemen and ma'am.
That's all.
We have 4 items on the agenda today, which include a total of 6 easements. Through the board's approval or authorship, we negotiated 6 drainage easements on Aquila Road in preparation for our drainage improvements and roadway improvements between Butternut and Mayfield. Those 6 easements have been signed off by the landowners and for the proverbial $1 each. So as you guys were talking about preserving the financial strength of this county, we are doing the same.
Doing the best you can.
So we're here to ask for the board's final approval and signatures on those easements so we can send them over to the recorder's office.
Together. The county engineer's office is requesting the board accept and execute the easement for drainage purposes between the Geauga County Board of Commissioners and Martin D. Ruddock, parcel 13-008-700 for improvements to culverts on Aquila Road in Clarendon Township in the amount of $1. The county engineer's office is requesting the board accept and execute the easement for drainage purposes between the Geauga County Board of Commissioners and Rebecca and Jan Brindo, parcel 13-01-5521 for improvements to culverts CH 05S 4.06 on Aquila Road in Clarendon Township in the amount of $1. The county engineer's office is requesting the board accept and execute the easement for drainage purposes between the Geauga County Board of Commissioners and the Cleveland Society for the Blind, a nonprofit organization, parcel 13-702-600 and 702-700 for improvements to culverts CH 05S 3.39 and CH 5S 3.50 on Aquila Road in Clarendon Township in the amount of $1 each, $2 total. The county engineer's office is requesting the board accept and execute the easement for drainage purposes between the Geauga County Board of Commissioners and Robert E. and Susan L. Collier, parcel 13-003, 200 for improvements to culverts, CH 05S 3.50 and CH 5S 3.54 on Aquila Road in Clarendon Township in the amount of $1 each, $2 total.
I'll make those motions.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
Commissioner Clickwell?
That's it.
Thank you, sir. Have a good
Christmas to you.
You too, guys.
Pass that back to your office to us.
Thank you.
For us.
Morning. Morning.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Morning.
Next one is just replacing, we had Connie retired, so hopefully they give me some help in the office. At the present time, I don't have anybody at my front desk the last couple of weeks because Tricia's been down the building department. So,
Any questions? The maintenance department is requesting the board grant permission to advertise for the position of part-time general communications clerk switchboard operator number 1912. This position will remain posted until filled.
Make that motion. Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier?
Aye.
Commissioner Clickwell?
thank you. Have a good day.
Bye. Take care.
No.
So I just want to direct you that do not,
Yep.
you're only signing the you don't need us to read it. The probate and juvenile court is requesting the board approve and authorize the president of the board to execute the Ohio Department of Youth Services Bureau of Subsidies and Grants Juvenile Accountability Block Grant, JABG, subgrant award for a restorative justice program juvenile peer review in the amount of $14,267, $12,840 federal award amount, $1,427 cash match from the Juvenile Court Special Projects Fund for the period January 1st, 2016 through December 31st, 2016.
Make that motion. Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spillier? Commissioner Clickwell?
I second.
Yes.
These will be the last ones we sign this year.
No.
No?
Next year, next
Oh,
week,
yeah.
29th.
We have one more week. We have lots of resolutions to sign next week, just giving you a heads up now.
You know, it just
I have a
occurred to me,
stack from the engineer's office.
it just occurred to me that the Ohio Revised Code sets the elected officials' compensation by county population. And I'm thinking maybe we should lobby for how many times we have to sign our name. Just a thought, I don't know, it might be out there, but
Well, then you have to lobby for more, because you're the president.
he's,
That's right. I sign more than anybody else. All right, go ahead. Transit, Mike.
Good morning.
Got little Christmas wreaths on your buses?
No.
Do you have to
This is
do-
less aerodynamic cost this one.
Yeah.
what was your answer?
Well, less aerodynamic cost is less
Right,
fuel.
right, right.
I have a coefficient of drag of about 200.
Yeah, at least.
together or not?
Numbers 20 and 21 are asking for the President to approve a contract between us for 2016 with the Ohio Department of Transportation for for number 20 for our eligible operating expenses and capital items. And the second one on number 21 is, that is for the capital items, those specifically for our vehicles that we're purchasing. So,
The Transit Department is requesting the board approve and authorize the president of the board to execute the Ohio Department of Transportation Rural Transit Program 2016 grant contract between the Geauga County Board of Commissioners and the State of Ohio Department of Transportation, contract 101 RPTF 160100 for the periods January 1st, 2016 through December 31st, 2016, in the amount of $969,555 for eligible operating expenses and capital items. The Transit Department is requesting the board approve and authorize the president and the board to execute the Ohio Department of Transportation 5339 Bus and Bus Facilities Grant Program 2016 grant contract between the Geauga County Board of Commissioners and the State of Ohio Department of Transportation, contract 101 BABD 160200 for the period January 1st, 2016 through December 31st, 2016, in the amount of $177,065 for capital items.
Make those motions.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye.
Commissioner Claypool?
All right. Yeah, I was reading the grant award document for the probate court, the one we just approved. And in there was a little paragraph that says they're responsible for upholding EPA rules and regulations under X federal code, da-da-da-da. I thought, how the heck is that gonna work, probate court? But there's nothing like that in here, is there?
well, it does say we will maintain our vehicles to maintain the standards. We promise to do that.
Government.
We do that.
Our poor kids, I just got back from 29 Palms, California, Marine base. The nonsense that they have to put up with out there as a result of our government stupidity is embarrassing. I feel for our kids out there, and they're such great kids. And it's awesome to watch them drive those tanks around.
My nephew's a colonel in the Marine Corps out there. Soon to be taking over a base in Hawaii.
Oh, really? My son's getting ready to go to Hawaii from there.
Oh,
He's been there for 3 years. He's going to Oahu or whatever the main base, main
I mean,
island
is
is.
it an air wing or is it ground forces?
He's in an intelligence group,
Oh,
and so I don't know what he's doing there. He can't tell me, or he'd have to shoot me. So, whatever he does, he's teaching the kids to do it on the desert. So,
there we go.
but I'm looking forward to taking a trip over there.
That's a good dissertation. Number 22 is, as I've been speaking about our succession planning and talking about our transit dispatching and safety, you guys did approve for me to advertise for a driver supervisor for driver's safety and dispatch, and to start also making inroads in our IT position so that we can eventually have some spread of the knowledge there. We had approximately 14 applicants for that. We interviewed 11 of those, 12 of those. Of the 12, we had 3 that we asked to come back after that Dave was involved in for secondary interviews. When it was all said and done, we decided upon Joanna Brace, who currently, well, as of a few minutes ago before you guys allowed her to be, to reside over at aging. She was the best fit for the position as far as knowledge of the county, knowledge of what we do, her knowledge of working with our dispatchers, familiarity with our employees, they all know her and respect her, and also professionalism going forward so that she can assume more responsibilities and she's there long term. So. Any questions?
The Transit Department is requesting the board approve hiring Joanna Brace to the position of Transit Driver Supervisor number 2207 to be effective February 1st, 2016, at a rate of $18.03 per hour after the successful completion of a 180-day probationary period. The rate will increase to $18.27 per hour.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye.
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye.
Commissioner Claypool?
Thank you very much and have a nice summer.
Bye-bye, Mike. Thank you for everything.
Take care.
No problem. The Commissioner's Office is requesting the board schedule a work session to be held on Tuesday, December 29, 2015 at 10:30 a.m. to discuss items for the reorganizational meeting for the year 2016. This is in addition to your regular meeting.
Can we take a vote on that?
Yes.
You want to hold our feet to the fire then?
Well, no, I want you to schedule the work session. You have to approve to schedule it, but I think that there's a lot of outstanding things that.
Oh, no, I don't have a problem with that, I just didn't know if we had to vote on it. I'll make the motion.
Yeah, you're
Establishing-
adding the meeting to the schedule.
Okay.
You're making the motion?
Yeah, I make the motion.
Second.
Commissioner Rea?
Aye?
Commissioner Spudler?
Aye.
Commissioner Claypool?
No. Yes. I'm just dying to say no, you know. Yes. We had to schedule that last one. All right, with that
You
said.
won't make any, final decisions, that'll be done at reorg, but I think this is a good way to get a lot of the things that are coming up, out on the table that you guys can really discuss amongst yourselves.
Okay, cool. And with that, Merry Christmas to all.
Same to you.
All good.
I move to adjourn.
We're adjourned. Merry Christmas, Jim.
Thank you. Take care.